This is for Algebra 2. We're going to start looking at square root functions today. So you have a fire truck that's backed up to the building that's on fire. A fire truck can get 12 feet from the base of a burning building. The extension ladder is used to reach the upper floors. Because the ladder can be extended to various lengths, it can reach higher and higher up the side of the building. Answer the questions below to describe the relationship between these two quantities. So you have your building over here, your truck over here on the left. He can only get 12 feet from the building in order to use the extension ladder. Okay, so 12 feet is going to be your base. You need to realize this is a right triangle. So looking at number 1, if the ladder is extended to a length of 13 feet, then how far above the truck can the ladder reach on the building? I want you to draw a triangle to explain the problem and show the work that leads to your answer. So if you think back to the picture they had, or you look at it, you have a right triangle, something like this, and we said that this was going to be 12. So to add our information, the length of the ladder is 13 feet. Well, if you look at the picture, you'll notice that this is the side that's your ladder over here, which is actually your hypotenuse. So label that as 13. And then we're trying to find the missing side. So we've drawn the triangle, we've explained the problem, and now we're going to figure out how high it can get. Okay? So if you think about this, you should think back to geometry, maybe junior high. We had something called the Pythagorean theorem, which was a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And your c is your hypotenuse, and that's why it goes by itself. So we're going to have 12 squared plus x squared is equal to 13 squared, which would be 144 plus x squared is equal to 169. You would need to subtract your 144, so x squared is equal to 25. And then to unsquare it, you're going to take the square root, and so x is equal to 5. Now we learned that when you take the square root, it can be positive or negative, but we're talking distance here, and so the negative doesn't matter. So x equal 5 is our answer, and that is how far above the truck that the ladder can reach. Okay, looking at number 2. What height can be reached above the truck if the ladder is extended to a length of 15 feet? Same situation, just a different number that you're working with. So we still have 12, we now have 15, and we have x. So x squared plus 12 squared is equal to 15 squared. So that would give you x squared plus 144 is equal to 225. Subtract your 144, and x squared is equal to 81. Take the square root and you get x is equal to 9. Alright, number 3. In this problem, let x equal the length in feet to which the ladder is extended, and y equals the height in feet that it can reach above the truck. Complete the table and graph showing this relationship. So basically what we're saying is that we're using Pythagorean theorem. X squared plus b squared is going to equal c squared. We know that 12 is the base, if you will. So we know this is 12. The ladder length is your x, and the height above the building is your y. So rather than having to move things around all the time after you've got numbers in there, we could think of this as we set x squared as our hypotenuse is equal to 12 squared plus y squared. So we could say that x squared minus 12 squared is equal to y squared. So they've given me x, okay? What they give me here on the left is my x, so I'm just going to put it in. So like if it's 12, 12 squared minus 12 squared is 0, and the square root of 0 is 0. Use your calculator. Now we're going to use the 13. 13 squared minus 12 squared, and then you take the square root of that number. So 13 squared minus 12 squared is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. 15 squared minus 12 squared is 81. Square root of 81 is 9. And you would just continue. 20 squared minus 12 squared, take the square root of that, you get 16. 25 squared minus 12 squared, take the square root of that, you get a decimal, that's going to be okay. 21.9. 30 squared minus 12 squared, take the square root of that, 27.5. And 37 squared minus 12 squared, take the square root of that, 35. So now you need to go over there and plot these points. So you're going to go over 12 and up 0, and it's counting by 2's here. Over 13, up 5, which is counting by 5's here. Over 15, up 9. Over 20, up 16. Over 25, up 20.9. And mine are not working really good. My stylus is not working on my iPad. Over 30, up 27.5. And over 37, up 35. So you get a basic idea of what your graph is going to look like. Okay, yours is probably not exactly like mine, but it should be somewhat close. Have that same basic shape. Okay, so a function to model the relationship between the length of the labor and the height it can extend above the truck is the square root of x squared minus 144, because that's basically what we were doing. Where does this function come from, or how is it derived? Well, what did we talk about at the beginning that you learned maybe in junior high? Okay, that's going to be the Pythagorean theorem, which was your a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we just moved things around and unsquared it, which meant take the square root. So to see the graph, you may have to change your calculator's window. Remember, the window is what you are actually able to see up on your screen. My suggestion for this one is that you have an x min of 0, an x max of 50, an x scale maybe like 5, a y min of 0, a y max of 45, and a y scale of about 5. So you probably want to go to your calculator, go to your window, and set your window to this. So for number 6, I want you to type the function into your calculator's y equal, and then go second graph, and go through the table. Second graph pulls up your table. Go through the table until you see the entries for 5, 6, 7, and 8. Put your answer down. So go to y equal. Going to put in your equation. What you're putting in is the square root of x squared minus 144. Second graph pulls up your table, and for each of these you ought to see error. So explain what this means in the context of the problem, of what's actually happening with ladders in buildings. Okay? What's going on for you to have an error if x is 5, x is 6, x is 7, x is 8? What they're saying is that keep in mind, you can only get within 12 feet of the building. So if it's 5, 6, 7, or 8, the ladder's not going to reach. You have an error. You have a problem. Ladder won't reach, if you can read that. Okay, so that's what's happening in the problem and what's really going on. What's happening with the numbers, okay? In other words, why does the calculator say it's an error? Why can't it show this? Stop and think. What's the first thing you put in after y equal? You put second x squared, and that means square root. What did we learn about square roots? Especially for a calculator. You cannot have the square root of a negative number, okay? And it's going to give you an error because of that. So what does this mean in terms of the numbers? Is that you would be finding the square root of a negative number, which we know has to become imaginary. You have to have an I. So what would you say is the domain of the function f of x equal x squared minus 144? We haven't talked about domain in a while. Domain is your x values, okay? For you to be able to get an answer, what is the smallest thing that x can be? Well, what is the smallest thing that will give you a positive number, or a 0 under here? And that's going to be 12. So your domain is x is greater than or equal to 12. What is the range? Well, if you put 12 in, what do you get? 12 squared minus 12 squared is 0. Square root of 0 is 0. So your range is y is greater than or equal to 0. Number 9, how do the numerical domain and range relate to the original word problem? In other words, take the numbers, take the words, put them together for a sentence. So if the ladder is 12 feet or more, the firefighters if you can read that, can reach heights greater than the truck. Okay, which makes your range greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so that is your notes for square roots. You're ready to get your assignment. Call me over if you have questions.